Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics. Well, here we are, lovely Drewling Samantics fans, listeners, watchers, and all I'm seeing at the moment is a blank screen. Where are you? Come on, Mr. Dunning. Come on, where are you, mate?
I'm here.
Yeah, I can't see you.
Well, see, there is a reason for that, Drew. That's because I've got a surprise.
I'm all right then. Surprise me, stun me. What have you got for me?
I've got a new studio.
Okay. At the moment,
I say new studio. I'm still in the same building, same room, but everything's been rearranged. So, are you ready for the big reveal?
Can't wait. Can't wait. Hit me.
Ready, steady, ta-da!
I've got to admit, mate, I'm slightly underwhelmed because it all looks exactly the same.
Wow. See, that's the thing. It is exactly the same for what you can see. Right. I've still got the sign, I've still got the plant. Aside from that, if you're in the room, mate, everything is completely different. There's new screens, there's new lights, there's loads of stuff going on. Looks great, but you can't see it. Right. So I'm now realising that was quite an anticlimactic kind of entry.
All I can say is, mate, for listeners, viewers, and myself, that's 30 seconds we're never going to get back.
No, that is true. Although most of our fans and followers would probably argue, mate, that we're 60-something episodes in, so that's probably the best part of 50 hours worth of life they're not going to get back.
There is that. But on a lighter note, it is lovely to see you, mate. It's absolutely lovely to see you.
Likewise, mate. Always wonderful to see you. Super excited for today. We've got a lovely guest joining us.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And before we go any further, I have to ask. I am locked and loaded with a lovely little drinky. So cheers to everyone out there. Now, what are you drinking this week? Are you back on the pink monstrosity that you were on last week?
Drew, you will be pleased to know, sat just off screen here, I have a pint of ale.
Oh, there's a catch in this. I know there's a catch.
My father always used to call it a pint of Adam's ale.
You're on water.
I'm on the water, mate. So cheers, everyone. Here's a nice sip of water.
Well, mate, it doesn't dilute the pleasure of seeing you. So cheers, matey. There you go.
Oh, that was so bad. It was so bad. It's almost good.
It's almost good, wasn't it? It's almost good.
Wow. we as every second advances, we are losing listeners. What crap will they come out with next? But anyway, how have you been, mate? Have you been busy?
Very good. Yes. Bits and bobs. Little bits of immersive theatre, some production meetings for stuff coming up in the later in the year. So yeah, a good, positive, busy week. Excellent. And I've been making some props for an event that I've got coming up as well. So yes, I've been prop making.
Stuff sounds very good. I mean, it is wonderful, mate, to chat, because do you know what? It feels like absolutely forever since I last saw you. It just feels like I don't know. I can't remember when we last got to see each other. Really,
it's an achingly long time, mate. It seems a lifetime.
Ridiculous, but anyway, so I've also been busy, and weirdly enough, consequently, I've been doing a bit of immersive dinner theatre as well this week.
Strange, that, isn't it? Very strange.
I had a really, really enjoyable one last night, actually, which was really good fun. Cracking team there, but anyway. And a few other bits that I've been busy sorting out, prepping for some events and stuff. So yeah, it's been a good week, but obviously the majority of it has been looking forward to this weekend and us being able to do a bit of recording and meeting our brand spanking new guest.
I'm looking forward to this one for particular reasons. Not only that great guest, but personal connections, shall we say?
Yes, indeed. And speaking of said guest, she's in our waiting room, mate.
Oh well, then do we fling our doors wide open and welcome her in?
I don't see why not. Right, here we go then. In comes the latest Drewling Samantics guest.
And good morning. We have opened our doors to, I have to say, everyone, to my lovely cousin, second cousin, Georgia. Georgia, how are you doing, my darling? You well?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Georgia. It's lovely to have you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you are our second guest in our fifth season. So welcome to the Drewling Samantics. Should we say Hall of Fame? There we go. Yeah, I know. Welcome. We fling our doors wide. Now, I mean, obviously, we know each other well, although we haven't seen much of each other recently because of unwelcome guests, lockdown, and being very busy people. So give us a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourselves before we delve deeper into you.
Sure. It's a little bit creepy. It's fine.
A little bit creepy.
No, I'm a director. I've been working in kind of London theatre since about 2016. And I'm currently the artistic director of the Golden Goose Theatre in Camberwell, which kicked off in remarkably 2020.
Yeah, good timing. That I was going to say. Yeah. We'll chat a little bit more about that because I mean Sam and I started the podcast during those turbulent times, so we'll touch on that a little bit. But for me, because I mean we know each other's background and that. But did you? I mean, because I went the actor route, and did you always start out wanting to be a director, and now obviously the an artistic director, or did you ever dip your toe in the acting water at all?
I tried to dip my toe in the acting water very much. I mean, I started off in youth theatre because, well, I think my mum sent me to youth theatre because I was incredibly tall and hated being noticed because I was incredibly tall. So she sent me to youth theatre because she thought, I don't know, that might make me a bit more confident. And what she ended up with was somebody very, very bossy. So I'm sure that's what she intended. But no, I really wanted to be an actor. And then I went to uni and kind of very quickly realised I was absolutely terrible at it. But still really wanted to hang out with all of the kids in like the drama society. So I went, I'll be a director instead. And kind of never stopped and went, oh, actually, I'm quite good at this. And now I'm a director. So
wow. So from a happy accident to now, as Drew said, the artistic director. What in particular is it about directing that you enjoy? So obviously you got into it through that method, but now you're there. It's obviously become this passion and your career. What is it about directing for you that's so special?
I kind of love being in charge. No, I kind of love how many kind of plates you have to keep spinning as a director. I also love there's something really special about watching like the first preview of a show and seeing kind of what you've helped create and then walking out into the bar and no one knowing you had anything to do with that show and just hearing them being like, the actors like, oh, it was really good, or you were really good, or whatever. And you can just go and sit at the bar and have a gin and tonic and no one bothers you. And it's great because you get kind of all of the praise secondhand. But you I don't know. I just really enjoy that. I find that feeling really special.
And that does connect to what you were saying, the fact that you didn't like being noticed, and now one of your main pleasures from what you do is the anonymity.
Yeah, but it's really nice because you kind of get to hear what people really think, because I feel like quite often when people give you an opinion of a show, often it's like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it, that was lovely, if they know you. But if you hear someone else talking about it, and I think it's more likely that they genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think people apply filters when they talk to actors, particularly when actors are friends or you've been in a show. People go, oh, you were great, lovely, or the other one, that was really interesting. You think, yeah, come on then, you obviously think it was shit, so what's your real opinion? Come on, but I mean, you
always know when people go, I really like the costumes. You're like,
yeah. Yeah,
All right,
lovely.
then.
Yeah,
it's interesting. We had Gemma on last week who runs Dress Circle Antics review company, and I review for her. And Drew and I have actually been out a couple of times and done some reviewing together. And you do find yourself having to go, right, I can now be fully honest, and I don't know anyone in this show, or I'm not doing this for a friend or whatever. So perhaps you do leave it a bit less filtered at that point. And for you being a director, obviously there will always be positive and negative, but to hear those positives and just think that's thanks to me, or partially thanks to me, and no one has any idea, that just must be such a buzz.
Oh, completely. I also kind of low-key love it when people hate it, though. That's also, I love doing shows, because I've done quite a few where people have either loved it or absolutely hated it, been like, this is the worst thing ever. And I kind of love that, because I don't know, I'd rather get a mix of reviews that are like 2 stars, never go see this, and like 4 stars, this is 4 and 5, this is the best thing ever, than just get a bunch of 3s where everyone's like, this happened. And you're like, right, okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, it did. So having kind of slightly more extreme reactions is much more fun to me, even if people hate it. I kind of love that.
They do say, don't know, that no publicity is bad publicity. So equally, a really negative review or a really negative thoughts by someone may well still garner that interest from others to go, is it really that bad? I mean, it's completely off on a tangent here, but it's a fact that I read about. Howard Stern, who is one of the judges on the, I think it's American X Factor or American Got Talent.
Oh yeah, shock job.
Obviously a very controversial radio DJ, and they did some sort of survey, and they asked people who liked his show or liked him, how often do you listen on average? And it was something like a couple of hours a day. And then they spoke to people who hated him and absolutely detested his show. And when they asked them how much on average do you listen, it was more than those that liked him. And the answer given by both sets of people was, I want to hear what he's going to say next. So he was, because being that shock jock, as you say, Drew, it's a completely different kind of element, but very roundabout way of connecting to our conversation. But regardless of whether someone's absolutely loved it or absolutely detested it, they want to get that opinion out there. So I guess, maybe there are positives to the negatives in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I once got a 2-star review because I used TCP in a show and the reviewer didn't like the smell.
What?
Stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Genius, isn't it? Genius.
Yeah, it was in the script. Like, I wasn't just randomly spraying people with TCP. It was in the script that somebody got some TCP out, and they were like, you should have used fake, it was awful, I could smell it. And it's like, I'm not a film, like, what? You're going to be able to smell things.
I was once, I directed a production of Table Manners, and the famous Alan Ayckbourn play. We did the 3 plays, and I directed one. 3 of us directed them. And I was cornered by a woman who said, I love the play, but I must take issue with you that it is not a koala bear. It is a koala. They're not bears. And I went, I'm aware of that, but maybe you want to talk to Mr. Ayckbourn, who wrote the play, because he wrote Koala Bear. And I said, this is an ordinary man, who doesn't know, obviously doesn't have your knowledge of natural history. She harangued me for 25 minutes in a bar about this. She said, you should have changed it. No, it's,
No, because
Mrs. Attenborough, but I've got other things I need to be doing.
I need to go quietly over there and die in a corner or watch some paint dry. But yeah, it's amazing you'll often find as well that people, when they have something to criticize, will talk to you longer than actually. Yeah. Then you've got, you'll have a 25-minute conversation about a koala bear, or, someone will go, I really love that. It's fantastic. I'm going to tell all my friends to come. That's it. Gone. You think, that's all I need.
Yeah, please just give me that. Yeah. Just
leave me.
But anyway, enough about us going off topic and talking about koalas and Howard Stern. Drew mentioned earlier that obviously Golden Goose, your theatre company, basically began during lockdown. So how I suppose how that I'm going to stop there. How essentially,
a lot of people claimed that we were idiotic, and I don't necessarily disagree with those people. But we opened, so we were all set to open in May of 2020. That was the plan for like months. Obviously, that didn't happen. So we just sort of pushed everything back and opened in October of 2020 when everything opened up and everything was fine. I mean, clearly wasn't, but yeah, everything was fine, and we ended up being open for 3 weeks and then closing again until the following May. So that was a surprise, but I feel like a little bit, you know, we're a new writing theatre in London. There's a few of them. That it's not a particularly scarce market, and I think kind of by opening when we did, you know, we got an article about us in the Guardian. I don't think they would have turned up if we'd opened a year earlier. I don't think anyone would have cared, and consequently we actually got quite a lot of buzz because we were doing something a bit weird, but also we kind of kicked off and have never changed that. You know, we don't charge any higher fees to companies. We are always a box office split. Most of the time we're like massively in the artist's favour. And we're just trying to be like a really supportive place for artists, kind of coming out of COVID and all of that, and coming out of it. No one's got any money.
No.
It's insane. No one's got any money to make work. So, okay, why would we'd much rather kind of facilitate it and go, right, how can we get you on, rather than being like, you have to pay us, you know, whatever a week and not getting anything. That's not useful for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, you know, there are a couple of, you know, several venues for new writing, and obviously it's important and it's a passion. Is it more difficult now than it used to be, regardless of COVID? Do you think there is a passion for new writing? Do you think it's something that's being encouraged, or are people backing off even more since, you know, the unwelcome guest, since lockdown, etc., or has that made people go, no, like yourself, you go, no, sod it, let's make it more accessible rather than pulling things away? Are you the only people doing that, do you think?
We're not the only people doing it. I unfortunately cannot claim to be the only person pioneering the fight for new writing. Thankfully, we need it. And I think the answer is there's a mix of both. I think there is obviously a push from a lot of houses to include work from people that they know and that they know will sell tickets. You know, the sort of theatre industry, I think, had 2 or 3 Mark Bartlett plays on at the same time in 3 different houses, because people will turn up to a Mike Bartlett show. And people are like, houses are struggling. They've lost so much money, and it is important to continue. Like, we can't let them all shut down. And I get it. But at the same time, I think in other places, there has been an incredible wave of new writing and new brilliant writers who have sort of had, I don't know if it's like the luxury everyone, you know, it was horrendous, but have had time to kind of write brilliant things. And consequently, I think we've got such an exciting new wave and new generation of writers that have kind of exploded. And they just need the space. That's all. Yeah. They just need the space and the opportunity, because these shows are transferring, they're blowing up. They just need somebody to go and see it. And I think it's the job of venues to amplify that. And that's what we're trying to do. Because we're slightly bigger than the average London new writing. We're not a tiny black box. You know, we've got ceiling height, we've got floor space. We're actually about to possibly rebuild the space, so it's a slightly different shape, which is very exciting. But we've also got room for an audience that's not like 20 people sat on top of each other. So we're really trying to kind of amplify these these people and get them like a big audience, but for kind of the deals that you're getting at every other above the pub theatre.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you talk about the time to plan and write. I mean, the show that I did in Coventry recently, new play, and one thing we chatted to Jamie, the writer, saying, you know, what's been so helpful, what's really sort of pushed this along. And he said, strangely, sitting on my backside for 10 months, not having anything else to do apart from write and hone and read it and give it to actors, give it to people to read and send it back. So that was, you know, he said, I'm more performance ready than I would have been had we sort of just pushed this through the normal channels. But he said, but with that in mind, he said, I'm also sitting there for 10 months, rubbing my hands going, I just want to get this on, you know. So I think the opportunity to write and create has been brilliant. But yeah, it's now, I think it's now or never. We have to push these new writers. We have to push the wealth of talent that we have. I think more than ever now, we've lost, it's a dreadful thing to say, but you know, that the lockdown and COVID actually it pared down the weak, it was survival of the fittest. And I think anybody that fell by the wayside, it's a dreadful thing. I don't mean it like this, and oh God, we'll get letters. But I mean, we did lose. There was a lot of, you know, a lot of waste, a lot of fat was trimmed off.
I think we stand the risk, and I mean, it's happening all the time. There's a huge talent shortage, because the industry is a little bit floundering and there's no money. And I think we need to find a way to operate so that these opportunities are still coming, but that people are able to sustain themselves in the industry. I mean, it's madness, some of the things that people are being paid or whatever. And it comes down to, you know, we don't want to end up completely, I mean, we're already partly there, but we don't want to end up having an industry that is only full of the people who can afford to work for free, because that's not interesting. That's not, and it's not representative of, you know, the society that we're supposed to represent as the arts.
It's tricky to make new work commercial, isn't it? That's the thing. It's that gap. It's commercial and exciting new writers ignite. You know, putting those together, the powers that be haven't made that leap. You're making that leap. We're making that leap. You know, but then you go. So just give us the funds. That's all we need. It is viable. That horrible word that we were thrown in our faces during. You know, oh, you're not viable. I think we are.
I think we are. I think we make a hell of a lot more money than a lot of industries.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sort of building on saying about supporting new writing and obviously pushing through the kind of the smaller areas within the industry, so it sort of breaks down and down and down. I know you're also championed for female writers and creatives, and obviously equality is particularly huge, or has been particularly huge for the last couple of years, and there's a big push to make things equal throughout. Drew and I actually, I was at a modelling weekend not last week, the week before. And that was to promote male models, because male models are particularly lesser when it comes to the modelling industry. And on the flip side, historically, writers and creatives have probably been more, there's been more of a male bias in the theatre world. But that is something that you personally and your company, and obviously across the industry now, we are really trying to change. How is that proving to be refreshing, and what are the positives in that for you and the company?
I think it's I do find kind of the male weight of like writers in seasons kind of baffling. Just because in general, every time we do a call out, you know, and we do them really regularly, we kind of always have open hire. You know, we're always open to people submitting shows. We just tend to do call outs to be like, hey, reminder, and we get an influx and we program a season. But I get more shows from women than I do from men. Just generally, I get more submissions, and it baffles me that there seems to be this perception that there's a shortage, and there isn't. There clearly isn't. So I have programmed kind of female heavy seasons by accident because the good work has come in from female writers. It hasn't been intentional. It's just what there is. And I think with things like the Women's Prize for Playwriting from Paynes Plough and Ellie Keel, you know, I think that's really championed it. I mean, we the kind of flagship show, if you like, of the Golden Goose was a show called A Rat a Rat, which came away with a standing ovation award from London Pub Theatres, which I directed. It was one of the shortlists from the original Women's Prize for Playwriting, and it was incredible. And I got it in my inbox via Twitter. And this is, you know, an incredible kind of award at a really high level. And the people of the 10 on the shortlist are touting their own work via Twitter because no one's picking it up. And it baffles me because all of the pieces are incredible.
Why is that? How do we make that, you know, because the thing about, you know, that the better work there is out there, the more opportunities there are for, you know, for actors, for performers, as well as yourself as directors. But why isn't that reaching where it should reach? Where is the drop off there? I mean,
honestly, I don't. The whole thing baffles me. I mean, I'm not going to start on, you know, internalized misogyny and all of that because we ain't got time. But I think that maybe because there has been such a kind of bias or whatever in the past, and now we're looking at kind of focusing on writers we know. It's kind of a self-proving cycle, really. Of, well, we know that guy and whatever, and I do still think that kind of reviewers as well, they don't like what women write quite often. Sometimes I don't know, they sneer at it quite a lot of the time. I'm not saying all reviewers, but I think you see a lot of, you know, I think a prime example was the review there was of Mum at the Soho, which was by Morgan Lloyd Malcolm. He's an incredible writer. And there was a review sort of saying, well, it wasn't long enough and maybe she should, you know, spend a bit less time with her kids. And it's like, this is nothing to do with the I mean, the show's called Mum, but still, it's nothing to do with the show. You are commenting on like a woman's circumstances in response to kind of with a snooty attitude of, you know, how dare you be in charge of childcare and also write a play. But it blows my mind, completely blows my mind.
Do you think there's an element in the same way we're seeing quite a lot of stunt casting, quite a lot of names being put into shows? We appreciate they sell tickets, but maybe companies aren't willing to take the risk.
Oh, completely. I mean, part of me is not against stunt casting because I think I think some stunt casting does a really important work of getting people who don't go to see theatre to see theatre. It gets them through the door. You know, Andrew Scott's playing Hamlet. Well, there's a load of Sherlock fans going to see Hamlet who wouldn't probably have engaged with Shakespeare. And then perhaps they'll see something else. And it's kind of that thing of using it as a gateway drug. I don't know. But I think because there is a worry about risk, and there is a worry about kind of getting people through the door, that we're reliant on names that we know, and whether that's actors or writers or directors, which is of course kind of strangulating to like the pool of talent, because just because they've not been in, I don't know, EastEnders or Line of Duty doesn't mean they're not good. It just means that less people know who they are.
Well, talking of knowing who you are and promoting, what have you got coming up? Now, come on, platform, stand on your box.
Yeah, no, we've got a fantastic summer season coming up that we've just finished programming from an open call actually on Twitter. But in the next couple of weeks, we've got a couple of brilliant shows. The first one is called Aphemi, and which is Greek to set free. It's a reimagining of the libation bearers, but it's all set in Northern Ireland. So that's on from the 24th to the 28th of May. And I mean, tickets for everything are on our website, which, you know, very easy to find. It's just goldengoosetheatre.co.uk. And then the one after that, which I must talk about, is called The Manic Monologues, which is a fantastic play. It's a set of monologues all discussing mental health. There's like 19 people in it. It is a brilliant evening. And that's on sale as well. So come down, because we're really close to central London. People think we're miles away. We're like, it's two stops from Waterloo, and we're like 5 minutes walk. So really easy to find, and a really cheap bar. We have a really cheap bar.
Well, you've just appealed to all our listeners now. I mean, if they're anything like me and Drew, then that's probably sold it for them more than anything else.
I think a pint is like £4.60, which for London is insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's great.
Wow, that's normally what a glass of water costs you in London.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Then you got to pay a surcharge for the glass.
Yeah, bring your own glass, and you
bring your own glass. Yeah, recharge. And for you, Georgia, what are your ambitions for the future? Are you going to grab a bigger theatre and shake the buggers up a little bit, and or
maybe who knows? I always used to say that it was like my, give me 30 years and I'll be running the National. And now I run a theatre. I don't know that that's actually what I want to do. But no, do you know what? The part of my job that I really do love the most is directing. I love directing shows. So, if anyone needs a director, hi. I'd also love someone to let me direct a panto, because I did panto at uni, and my best mate writes pantos, and I love them, and I think they're really, really important part of like the theatre ecosystem. So someone let me direct a panto, please. Could
I just caution you against directing panto? Because I've directed many, and the last one last season just about crippled me. But although I was playing Dame with 12 costume changes as well, so.
Yeah, see, I probably wouldn't do that. I probably would ideally just direct a panto. And I've directed one with 108 people in it. So if I slim that down to like 12,
piece of cake. You do that. But you talk about, I mean, that was, there was a lot of plate juggling. And then someone threw in the whole sort of, the whole COVID thing going, oh, by the way, no, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So we weren't allowed kids, we weren't allowed them, but yeah. So, yeah. Well, yes, you can. Yeah, you can direct me. I'd be honoured to be directed by you as Dame. Take the
amazing
off me.
Right now, very aware that you are in the middle. If I'm correct in thinking, you're painting at the moment, aren't you? You renovating.
I am.
Yeah,
I am painting at the moment. It's fine.
So we've allowed enough time for one coat to dry, but I know you're going to have to go and do another coat. So we promise not to keep you too much longer. But we do have a tradition on Drewling Samantics where we always ask our guests to finish up by giving us a funny anecdote or a unique and crazy story, something about their position in the industry, something that they do or have been involved in that will make our listeners smile, laugh, jaws drop. So can you fit that bill, Georgia? Can you hit us with a story?
Oh, probably. I'm trying to think of one that won't actually get me into trouble with the people involved. But no, do you know what? Before I moved to London, I directed at the Edinburgh Fringe a few times. And the third time I did this, I directed Titus Andronicus at the Edinburgh Fringe, which I love that play. Very few people do. I love it. It's great. It's savage. Anyway, so we did it, and I was like fresh out of uni, so all of my ideas were horrible. Everything was black and white. It was just awful. But one night, it was a wet show. We had like roller floor out. There was paint flying everywhere because of the blood, because it's an incredibly bloody show. And one night, I think Titus got accidentally stabbed a little bit too early, and the blood pack just really gently oozed down his inside leg. So it just looked like during a monologue, basically he was pissing black because the blood was black, because it was edgy, actually. And kind of combining this with the fact that Tamara never learnt her lines and was just completely riffing the whole way through and making absolutely no sense. I'm really still surprised they let us go on every night. But yeah, it was just this whole time, and it just looked like he was having a wee. And it was great. It was brilliant. Lovely time.
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
I like that.
That is a stage owning moment that none of us as actors ever want to have. I mean,
no.
I'm sure the reviews were more than kind about that, and
we don't talk about the reviews for Titus.
We don't talk about.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? It got 2 though. I have had a 1, and I'm always proud of the 1.
Oh, those have got to be carried with pride. I've had a 1. I've had a couple of 1s in Edinburgh as well. Yeah.
One of my first professional reviews just ended with the line, "Ms. Harris needs to calm down," and I have that framed.
Oh,
my first review we talked about last week. My first review was Andrew Fettis is short. They
weren't wrong. We've been over.
They
this,
weren't
mate.
wrong.
They
I know.
It's correct.
It stayed with me. But then I went on to get quite a nice review after that. But the first line of the whole review was Andrew Fettis is short.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I mean, in the Titus that I did, we had a male Lavinia. We gender swapped quite a few of the parts. We had a male Lavinia, and one of the reviews just said it was a curious decision to have Lavinia played by a short, hairy little fellow.
Was that you as well?
Yeah, it did.
Love it.
It's the same show, same review. It's Drew being short and hairy. I
just think you should keep. I think that's You have to revive that every few years and just do the show exactly the same. Change nothing. See what the reaction is.
Yeah.
And
it'll become a cult show.
Drew can be in it. Drew can be short and hairy, and I'll come and review it because I have to say as a reviewer, I have never given a 1 star. Maybe I've just been lucky and not seen anything awful enough to get. I think I gave it 2.
You just need to come and see one of my shows.
Well, there we go. So we'll have a Drewling Samantics outing where I can take my 1-star virginity, and Drew can be short and hairy, which is what he was.
And you can just calm down, George.
You can calm.
Calm down.
Chill, girl, chill.
And if we haven't lost most of our listeners by now with this crazy ranting, then our audience are better than we deserve, Drew. So, but
they're always better than we deserve, mate.
Well, that is also true. And speaking of better than we deserve, Georgia, you've been an absolute angel. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. It's been wonderful chatting to you. Hopefully we'll be able to come out to the theatre at some point. We will do. We won't do all that rubbish 1 stars and hairy Drews, but we'll come out and we'll see something, and maybe we'll be able to do a Drewling Samantics on the road, because we try and go out and see some stuff and do a bit of on-scene reporting, so to speak. So let's try and we'll try and make a trip to the Golden Goose and just see. I really ought
to get down there, and familial ties. It's like get your ass down to the building your cousin runs, for God's sake.
I mean, it's a very nice building. And
I know.
Cheap pints.
Can I ask before we do end? Why is it Golden Goose? Is there any particular reason?
No, the pub was called that.
Name the pub.
We moved in.
Simple as that.
I'd love there to be a better reason. Something about laying golden eggs and talent and nurturing, something like that. But no, the pub was called that, and therefore we are too.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Drew's head looks a little bit like an egg. Is that close enough?
Yeah.
What?
We'll go with that.
Okay. I'm going now.
Yeah.
Georgia, thank you so much. It's been brilliant.
You.
Yeah. And
lovely.
We'll catch up with you very, very soon. Thanks ever so much. See you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Do you know what, Drew? Isn't it fascinating that, we've had a fair few guests join us on the show, and actually, I would say a decent proportion of them, their funny stories had something to do with a Shakespeare play, or at least an experience involving something Shakespeare-based. Off the top of my head, I'm sure Joz was talking about a Shakespeare upset of some sort. But either way, what a fascinating and wonderful lady Georgia is. she's another. She basically is the epitome of what we try to do in bringing in guests that perhaps are lesser celebrated. In that she's quite happy being the non-face, like, brains behind stuff, if you get me.
I do. I mean, it's as you say, she's very much the power in the background. Behind every good theatre, there's a good woman, and it's kind of like she's very happy to sit back there and enjoy the adoration, but nobody knows she's doing it. And I've got she's my cousin. I've got a sneaking admiration for her. I think she's we're doing some absolutely brilliant work in a fantastic new theatre that came out of, that was born out of struggling times, and to actually do what she's done and do what they're continuing to do is I mean, I don't want to wish to sound patronizing, but it's quite incredible, and just needs to be supported and lauded. So I'm definitely going to do some supporting and lauding and get along.
I mean, yet another silver lining to the cloud that was the unwelcome guest. I mean, we were lucky enough to create a successful podcast out of lockdown, and she, in the same way, has started and is running a theatre company that is still going despite all the odds, and despite it starting at a point where most people would have said this is absolutely the wrong time to be doing this. So it's a big advert for the resilience of the industry. It's a big supporter for the female side of production and direction and creatives in the industry. Just a really entertaining and informative kind of chat there about stuff that perhaps people don't really think about. So,
and nice to hear again someone being encouraging about coming out of lockdown. I mean, a lot of our guests have been encouraging, but also about that period, about saying, while we're waiting, a lot of good stuff was happening. And she and the writers that she's working with and the performers were just waiting to be released and go for it. So I think it's really nice. I don't think we hear that enough, that we hear a lot of woes, and we've had a few moans and groans about it, but along with us, sort of saying it's great to be back to work, it is good to hear her say that period actually was quite a positive period, as there were lots of us struggling, but there was some good things happening in the background.
Exactly. And I think, like I say, I think a lot of our guests have brought that to the table. We had go back to our first season, Darren, who is the creator of V Show Cards. That was mostly done throughout lockdown. We spoke to Rob and to Charlie, both of whom as musicians had the opportunity to perhaps create some more music during that period. So I think as an overall feeling, the industry kind of went, all right, maybe we're not going to be supported outwardly, but we're going to make sure that we're still being creatives. We're still making the most of any time we've got. And then when we can go back to normality, we're going to throw it in your face and go, look what we did with that time. We've created these things. We've done these amazing things. So, but
good. I think and encourage everyone who's listening and watching to get along to the Golden Goose in Camberwell. Beautiful new theatre. We'll be there.
Yes, we're going to have to make a trip there at some point.
We are definitely. And talking of making trips,
go on.
What have you got coming up next week, mate? What's
Well, I mean, I not only coming up next week, mate, but coming up this evening. So I'm off to do a show in a bit. I'm pretty sure you're off for one in a minute.
I am. I'm off for an afternoon's entertaining as well. Yeah.
So we may not have even started next week yet. We're at the end of this week. We've hit the weekend, but we're still going. But next week, a little bit of immersive dinner theatre. I've got a script I'm currently working through for something else. Bit of preparation for a slightly different bit of theatre work at a special event. So lots of interesting bits to kind of go over and work out. What about yourself? Before you run away, go on, hit me.
I've got some recording for Listening Books, which is one of my favourite charities. So it's their summer book list. So I record their summer catalogue.
Mm-hmm.
And some I've got some some dinner theatre as well coming up. Some
nice.
Immersive dinner theatre coming up. Couldn't think of the word immersive for a moment. It's come back now. So yeah, that's going to keep me fairly busy this week.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that.
And then I suppose we better also do another one of these, hadn't we?
Well, there is that. Yeah. Well, I should be looking forward to chatting to my little buddy again. So with
there's an irony in there. You calling me little. Anyway, in which case, let's go get ready for what we've got to do. Let's go do some
Absolutely.
work. But for now, mate, cheers to you.
Cheers.
Lovely as always to see you. Wonderful.
And you.
Chat to Georgia. And thank you, everyone, listening in for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see everyone next week, I guess.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
If you have, then please consider subscribing to our channel and you'll get notified every time a new video is released. Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app.
Please support us on other social media too. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so please share with your family and friends and we'll be eternally grateful. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.